everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to get the look of a Botox brow lift without using any Botox. So basically what I'm going to be demonstrating to you today is my everyday eyebrow routine. I've been on YouTube for a couple of years now. I just had my 45th birthday. And over the last couple of years, I have been, I don't want to use the word accused because it sounds like it's like getting Botox is something that's bad that women shouldn't do. And everybody is entitled to their opinions, but I don't think Botox is a bad thing, especially when you get to be in your 40s and 50s and beyond. My opinion for those of us that are getting older is that, you know what, if you have the money to do it and it's something that you want for yourself, then by all means go ahead. And so over the last couple of years when people have said, oh, you have so much Botox, you have a ton of Botox, I would say for the majority of the time I've been on YouTube, I have had no Botox whatsoever. I've tried it a couple of times over the years, and I've always been open with everybody and telling you when I've had lip filler, when I had my lip filler dissolved, when it was pretty obvious when I had it, when I didn't. The Botox, I usually don't have any Botox in my face simply because it's just never worked for me. I have hooded lids and I've always wanted the look of a Botox brow lift. That's what I would get it for. I would never ever get Botox in my forehead because what that does, Botox is like a muscle relaxer. So what that would do is it would lower my brows, which is the exact opposite of what I want. So I'm never ever going to be putting Botox directly into my forehead. What a Botox brow lift does is most injectors will put a little bit under the brow here, so it'll drop the inner corner down, thereby lifting the arch of the brow, giving the effect of a lifted brow. And a lot of times that's why if people overdo it, you'll see them looking very surprised, and you can just kind of tell that they've had a lot of Botox put in there. Usually it's only about 20 to 30 units. No, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like 10 units, I think, for a Botox brow lift. Anyway, you can Google that and everything will pop up on how many units is typical for a Botox brow lift. But it's usually a couple of shots here, maybe one under the arch of the brow, and maybe 1 or 2 units on the corner of the brow. So I have had that done by a couple different injectors over the course of the last 7 years, so even before I was on YouTube, and it's just never worked. I just never really got that lift I was looking for, or if I did, it was so subtle that I didn't think it was really worth the money, because Botox is not cheap. It can be anywhere from, you know, $10 to $15 per unit, and some places like in Nevada where you have to have, there's a minimum amount of units that you can actually get. So here in Nevada, it's at least $400 to $500 for Botox. And the thing is that when it doesn't last very long, it takes my body about 2 weeks for the Botox to kick in. That's what they tell you when you go get Botox injections, that sometimes it takes about 2 weeks for the Botox to kick in, and it does. It takes me the full 2 weeks, and then it only lasts about 4 to 6 more, if I notice anything at all. So that is why I don't get it. I have had people comment and try to start arguing with me and say, why don't you just tell the truth, and why aren't you honest? I will always be honest with you guys. I have no reason to lie about anything that I have done or will do. If I decide to go get a Botox brow lift again, I'll probably take you with me. I do not care about that. I think that, as I said earlier, to each their own, and if it's something I want to do, I'm going to do it. So I feel like I really had to say that in this video because it's important information for you to know when watching me do a demonstration, and why I have titled this Botox brow lift, because I feel like this gives me the same effect. This technique, the way I do my brows, gives me the same look that I achieved when I did have the Botox brow lift. As I said, it was so subtle, and this is pretty subtle. So some people might not feel like they notice a difference at all, but I definitely notice a difference. I feel like I have to do this technique in order to look more awake and more youthful. So of course, this might not work on everybody's type of brow, because number one, you may have a lot more brow hair than I do, and it might not work as well. I've never done this technique really on anybody with already full bushy brows, or perhaps you just have a really low or prominent brow bone, or your brows just hang too low for this to work. So unfortunately, as with any video you watch on YouTube, the technique shown is not going to work for 100% of you. But I really do feel like for the majority of you, this technique will give you that brow lift effect that you might be looking for. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's get to the demo. All right, here are my eyebrows without anything on them. And to get the most perfect looking brow, you really should, especially if you're like me and you don't have a lot of brow hair, you really should do your brows without anything else on your face before you do moisturizer, before you do foundation. But my problem with that is that if I do my brows and then foundation, a lot of times I will slip up and I will end up removing the brow that I just put on. So I have to be super, super careful, use a really tiny brush and take the foundation and just go right along the top and underneath. Well, you'll see what I do with the concealer underneath. But anyway, I'm gonna take a makeup removing wipe because I do have my foundation on already, and I'm going to just wipe off any residual foundation that I have on my brow. So as you can see, that was just foundation that was on the brows, no brow product. So I'm gonna wait for that to dry for a couple of seconds. And then what I do is I take a slim brow pencil, a really, really slim brow pencil. Today I'm gonna use the Anastasia Brow Wiz in the shade Caramel. Some other thin brow pencils that I really, really like are the Benefit Precisely My Brow, the BH Cosmetics HD, the NYX, I think it's called Slim Brow Pencil, and I just popped off the spoolie from this. I have read so many reviews that say the ABH Brow Wiz spoolie is horrible and that it always pops off people's pencils, and I'm thinking to myself, I've only had that experience once and I bought like tons of them, but yeah, this is really a problem. So I'm gonna go switch pencils and come right back. Actually, I'm still gonna use the Brow Wiz in Caramel, but I'm just gonna use the spoolie off of another product because you have to use the spoolie. Well, for me, for my technique, I always use the spoolie. So what I do is I take the spoolie and I brush all the brow hairs up on both sides. Now, I know some people's technique, I've seen it a lot, is to brush the hairs down and then fill in. I've never done that. Maybe I should be doing that, but I've never done that. So I just brush all the hairs up and out. So what I do is I take that Brow Wiz and I draw the arch I want underneath. So I take a magnifying mirror. I'm not using one right now because mine's at my vanity and I need to get really, really close and I can't do that on camera. So hopefully this will be okay, but my eyesight's going, so I have to get as close as possible or use that magnifying mirror. And this front part is really, really thin. So I draw a little bit thicker underneath and I go almost up on a 45-degree angle to the point of my brow, which is a little bit further where it naturally is. So if you take this pencil and you go across like this, you go from the side of the nose to the pupil to the top of your brow. This is where I have placed the dot. So I'm going dot, dot. And then instead of going down, because I don't want the eye to be drawn downward like this naturally is, I take it and I just drag it out. So it's not that different. It's just cutting off a little bit of that tail. So it goes more out than down. And then what I do is I go and I draw a little bit thicker above as well. And then just connect those two spaces. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I raise my brows a little bit because this eye is more hooded than the other. So I raise my brows. And see, if you have Botox, you can't do this. So that's why I prefer to do it this way. So I raise my brows and do the same thing. And now this one, because this whole side of my face is just, like most people, it's very asymmetrical. So this one goes down a lot. So with this side, I'm pulling it out a little bit more, a little bit higher. So there's a little bit more of that tail remaining. And then what I do, well, hang on, I'm getting ahead of myself. So then I go a little bit higher up top and once again, connect the two lines. So I don't know if you can see, but that's where I'm gonna have to cover with concealer. And if you can see, I've gone a little bit higher up top. Now I know this looks crazy and harsh right now. All right, so my camera decided to cut out, so it missed picking up when I showed you the products I'm using next, which are the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Powder in Caramel and a Smashbox Brow Brush. So all I did is I picked up some of that brow powder and I started filling in the brow with the powder. Not doing the very front, starting about 1 centimeter in. And I was saying when I got cut off that I have a scar right here, an indentation from being hit with a golf club when I was about 7 or 8. So product doesn't really stick to that area. So then what I do is I flip the brush around and I just make some soft strokes. So I can't say it looks like real hair, but you know, as I said, I don't want to spend such a long time doing my brows. And once you get the hang of this technique, it doesn't take that long. It really isn't a 10-minute procedure or a 10-minute event. I would say maybe 5 minutes. So I'm just gently going over that area. And then I take my spoolie again and soften all of those edges. All those harsh lines are going away. And then if I see any sparse areas, I can go back over with the powder or the pencil. Actually, I'm going to take the pencil and just touch up any areas that I feel missing a little color. Now I'm taking a flat synthetic brush. This one is an old one from Scott Barnes. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you've seen it in quite a few videos. And I'm taking my Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Concealer. You can use any concealer that you have for this step. I am coating the tip of my brush with the product. And then I take this concealer and I sharpen under the brow and then bring it out. And that will not only really define that lift, that higher arch, but it also shows me, because my brow hairs are so light, it shows me where I need to tweeze. So I just did this recently, so I don't think that I have any hairs to tweeze at the moment, but then sometimes I go above the brow and just blend it into my foundation. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, picking up the product. And then I start in the inner portion and bring it out. Little hair right there. Now sometimes I find I take off too much of the tail with that step, so I'll have to go back in and redo it just a little bit. And now I'm taking my clear brow gel. This one is from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and set those brows in place. And so sometimes I have hairs that grow down here, so I always try to get those so that nobody can tell that I've readjusted the tail of my brow. So there you have it. These are my completed lifted brows with no needles necessary. Okay, so I went and put the rest of my makeup on, and I did forget one thing. Sometimes when I am doing my makeup and I'm doing like a more glam look like this, I will take a little bit of a light shimmery eyeshadow, be it an ivory or a white, and I will pop that right under the arch of the brow. Normally I find that the lightness of the concealer is enough of a a lifting effect for that area. But as I said, sometimes I will pop a little bit of shimmer just right under that brow bone. Don't take it too far down, especially if you have hooded lids, because it'll just drag the eye down. And what you want it to do is lift. You don't want to look like, you know, Mr. Spock, Dr. Spock, or Spock, I'm just gonna say, where it's like really pointed, which is another reason why I don't go back and try the Botox brow lift again, because I am afraid that if they put in more that I will look like that. So this is the way that you can get a brow lift, but it's under your control and without the needles. Actually, I should say without the needles and the expense. All right, that's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask me in the comment section. You can also find me on social media. I have Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and Twitter. Everything is under the name Risa Does Makeup. All of the products will be listed in the description bar. And also, if you wanna make sure that you never miss a video of mine, go ahead and hit that notification bell as well. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.